Hey, welcome back. It's Father's Friday, and I'm Scott Trout, managing partner and CEO of Cordell Cordell. And welcome to the next installment as we're celebrating guys, dads, fathers every Friday during the month of June. And today is the second installment, and we're glad you could join us. Always keep in mind, we want to hear your questions in the Q&A section. So you could submit those now, and we'll try to answer some of your questions as we move along today. And we're really talking today in our second installment about how we can position ourselves to try to make memories with your kids during Father's Day and really every time that you have them, whether it be weekends, weekdays. So we're going to have a special guest today, talk a little bit about that. And we're going to cover some of those topics as we try to explore ways for you to do that and to make memories with your kids and spend time. It's oftentimes, I think, whether it's post-divorce, can be one of the more difficult tasks is now what do I do? How do I make that time special and not just have them over with me? And that's some of the complaints that we hear where, I have them on a weekend, but we just sit around and we do nothing, or they're on their phone, which is a good entree to our guest today. Let me introduce, though, our panel of Cordell attorneys first and foremost. Welcome to the program, Ashton.
Thanks, Scott. I'm excited to be here today.
And also rounding out is Kim. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you, Scott. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, glad to have you guys, and they'll be here to answer your questions. So remember, Q&A section, you want to go ahead and submit that there. So I want to introduce our guest for today, which we're really thankful to have, Dustin Dailey, which is the VP of Product Management at OurPact. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to discussing our product and how to make memories with your kids.
Yeah, so that's it. It's funny. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States, around the world. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone's got their head buried in whatever it is, social media, apps, games. It's interesting as you think about trying to make memories, but you also worry about your kids and the access to the worldwide set of information. It's dangerous, and it's been that way since the dawn of time of the internet. My kids are older and grown. 28 years ago, I was thinking about this, and this product, OurPact, I would have loved to have had when my kids were younger, because again, let me just tell everyone watching first and foremost, what is OurPact?
Yeah, so OurPact is a parental control app, but it's really more than that. The screen time management, it's really trying to protect your kids online, but also give you the tools that you need to help raise your kid the way you want to. We've really tried to design OurPact in a way that gives you the tools that you need as a parent to parent the way you want to. So there's a number of different features. We can go into some details, but you don't have to use them all. And really, we're trying to take the so we understand that the internet can be a scary place. There's lots of dangers, but it's also a wealth of information. There's a lot of good out there. But what we do nowadays is give kids complete unfettered access to essentially a landmine field without any sort of map or guidance. And so what we're trying to do is remove some of those landmines for the children. And then for parents, there's a lot of tools on there to try to restrict the amount of screen time, so that way they can really create balance. And a lot of that is giving kids the power to decide when they get to use that screen time through like our screen time allowance feature. There's other tools that we have. One's View. I'll just high level go over that, but that really just allows parents to know what's actually happening on their kid's device and kind of alert them if there's anything that's alarming, whether it's with their friends or themselves, if they're being bullied, if there's any sort of suicidal ideation, all sorts of different topics that we cover. But more than that, we get a lot of feedback from parents that allows parents to know what their kids are interested in, which is really a way to be able to connect with your kids. So obviously, it'll let you know if there's difficult topics that you need to approach with your children, but more importantly, gives you some insight into what their interests are and ways you can connect with them that maybe you're not aware of. Because again, kids communicate through their phones and less, face-to-face dialogue these days in some cases.
Yeah. That's
Dustin,
interesting. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Scott, but Dustin, where did you get this idea to come up with the OurPact? I know the digital age we are thriving in, but what started OurPact?
Yeah, great question. I can't take credit for that. Our CEO and founder, Amir Masavian, for him, it really came out of necessity too. He was dealing with the same thing, raising two pre-adolescent girls, and really finding that they're buried in their phones, texting with friends, and even like around the house, trying to find a way to connect with them on their level. And that might be a recurring theme in this conversation today, but how to connect with your children on their level. And so he found ways to not just in the house, like text them like, hey, get off your phone, but really having like conversations with them and find a way to connect with them, even in the house through text message. And his kids realized that, recognized it, appreciated it, and said something. And from that started a long journey to developing OurPact. And it really has evolved over the years, but it was essentially how to help kids manage the amount of screen time they're using, but also a way for parents to connect with their kids through that digital media as opposed to face-to-face. And through that, it's actually created more opportunities for those face-to-face moments to bond with your kids and have those moments again.
Yeah. Jeremy just made a comment online, which is great. It's so appropriate is, your kids just want to be online. You bring them over and here they are, they're texting, they're snapping, they're tweeting, they're whatever they're doing, and they're just so hyper-focused. And so that's the whole point of Father's Fridays is we want to provide uplifting resources to kind of put you in a position to make those long-lasting memories and make time with your kids quality. And I'm really interested. What's so unique is the two things I was looking at the website before we went live, which is time management, making sure you can restrict the amount of time. But really interesting is you can understand what they're interested in and having meaningful conversations with them, and probably to their surprise about maybe you share something common, and now they can make that time. It's like, man, my dad's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So honestly, the view feature, I think we were really trying to solve a problem out of necessity, which is all the dangers that kids are exposed to. And so that's how that feature started. But really the side effect that we saw is we're getting more insights into not just the dangers, but the interest in their kids' lives. And that creates an incredible opportunity to connect with your kids. So we've been very thrilled about that. It's a great tool for that. Yeah.
So I've got two kids and they're elementary school aged, and they are always wanting to be on devices. And there's definitely a constant battle going on with screen time and how much it should be. So I think that OurPact is definitely something that I could benefit from. But who is your typical user of OurPact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's parents, guardians of lots of different children. We see, like I said, again, we have lots of different features. So we see parents use it in different ways as their kids grow older in age. And, parents have different viewpoints on how early to give a kid a device, whether it's an iPad, but even if it's a young kid, 3 or 5, which is not uncommon, there's lots of tools to be able to restrict what apps are available. So you can essentially limit it to just YouTube Kids if you want. You can remove the ability to download new apps, make purchases on the iPad. So you can really lock it down and give them a very protected environment. And then beyond that, as kids get older, if you have, preteens, maybe you're okay with them on Instagram, but not Snapchat. Again, you can block Snapchat entirely, disallow that on the kid's device. There's lots of other apps. So we have a feature called App Rules that allows you to specifically decide what apps they can or cannot have access to. And there's even some apps that you can say they can have 24/7 access to, even like there's some sleep aid apps that parents might want their kids to use. So you can allow 24/7 access to apps like that. As kids get older, we see parents start to use our family locator feature. They start to, go hang out at friends' houses. You can kind of see where they're going, get location history, especially we see as kids get older and start driving, sometimes parents will turn off the screen time allowance feature. So at that point, kids can decide how often they use their phone. There still might be restrictions, like you can't have dating apps, like those are all just restricted for obvious reasons. But you can go around, drive around town, but parents still want to know that you're making it safely to your friend's house. They can set geofences so that way they get notified when they arrive safely, or also if they happen to ditch high school. So it's a little different. We used to be able to do that when we were kids and no one would know any different, but nowadays, it's a mixed bag, but it's a good thing. So we see all different types of families. And again, we're not trying to prescribe the right way to parent. the product has the set of tools that you can choose how to use it and what to use that's appropriate for your family.
How do we get started with OurPact? So do we sign up through an app? Do you prefer us to go online? How do we start choosing these services or streaming services, apps? Where do we get started with that?
Yeah, so the best way is to either go to the Apple App Store or the Android Play Store and just download the OurPact app. There's a parent app, OurPact Parental Control. There's a child app. But if you just download the parent app, it will guide you through the process. You can look at the features, start playing with them, start a free trial, and take a look at really what it has to offer. And then it will guide you through setting that up on your child's device. And then once you set up your child's device, you'll be able to remotely manage these things. You don't have to touch the child's device again. You essentially can at any point say, I want to give access to this app, or I don't want to give access. And a lot of this stuff, you can set it up and it's automated. But at any point, you can go in and make any adjustments and changes. But really, that's the best way. If you want more information, ourpact.com. Go there and take a look and see what we have to offer.
So Dustin, let me ask you, is it kind of an app that the kids know exists on there? Is it hidden? Is it behind the scenes or what?
It is something that they're aware of. That's one thing that we probably do prescribe. We have some parents that say, I want to install this and I don't want the kids to know at all. We really encourage parents to have the conversation with the kids, create a pact and an agreement with them. That's really the principle and concept behind our pact. And so it is something that they'll be aware of. Again, in some cases, depending on what features you have, you don't necessarily need the child app, but we highly encourage it and recommend it. Most features do require it because it requires some engagement and involvement from the children as well, which again helps to kind of teach them to use the time responsibly, use the device responsibly. So it's one of those things that it's also, I'll broach another topic that's separate, but because of we take what we do very seriously in the sense that like we encrypt a lot of our data, only parents have access to a lot of the data. But we also are mindful of that. You're getting information from your child's device, and we want them to be aware of that. And obviously for legal reasons, once they get to a certain age, there are certain things that they're legally entitled to. So transparency is important. So the kids will be aware.
It's a tough conversation, but it's a good one to begin to have about being safe. And, kids will typically take it in a negative way if you're trying to restrict my freedom. And so that is the question that came in was, are there recommendations in the software about what age is recommended for certain restrictions, or does OurPact give any guidance? I get that parenting is an individual decision, but is there any kind of help for users about, hey, what's appropriate time here for this age group and et cetera?
Yeah, so it's a great question. We have some articles on our website that will cover some of that stuff. As far as the screen time allowance, we kind of have the default set to 2 hours a day, which in some cases is high, in some cases it's low. We have talked about prescribing a little bit more as far as suggestions based off of age. But we haven't done that just because we have taken very seriously, like we've started to collect anonymously some data to do that stuff. And then we decided we try to collect as little data as possible. We keep very little data. And that's just one of the things that we haven't gotten around to. But again, the defaults are set at 2 hours because that's kind of an average healthy amount, which for some people they find shocking because it's a very low amount to what is actually happening in day-to-day life of kids. It's oftentimes 8 hours, which is a lot.
I mean, interesting, I think about, you maybe shutting it off during school hours, whatever it may be, but especially during the summer, obviously. You think about, does OurPact, as we're talking about controlling screen time, I mean, it shuts off access to text, email, everything across the board, or can you individually select that to try to minimize the screen time?
Yeah, you can pick and choose. So you can, again, say, I don't want them to have access to Snapchat at all. Or you can say the Sleep Aid app, I always want them to have access to, or all these other apps, whether it's YouTube or Instagram, they can have access to, but they get a total of 2 hours and they get to pick and choose when they use that time. And that's kind of how it's set up. You don't have to enable the screen time allowance. You can allow them to have 24-hour access to the device, but you can say, I don't want them to have access to these particular apps. So that's another option. There's lots of different ways it can be used.
So David has a good question, which I was actually going to ask you about. One of the functions I noticed was very similar to Find Me or Find My iPhone or Find My device, that you can kind of not, I hate to use track, but know where your kids are. The question was really, does installing that software prevent them from turning off or killing the apps or deleting the app? I mean, is there a way that they can't control it in any way by turning it off? Or like, for example, in the Find My iPhone, you can just stop sharing your location.
That's an excellent question. So the answer is, yeah, we're not just an app. We install some software on Apple devices specifically. It's called Mobile Device Management, MDM. There are ways to install that over the air. We really encourage, if you have access to a computer, and again, our app and onboarding process will walk you through that. You just plug your child's device in. It will walk you through installing a management profile, and that's what will allow you to remotely send commands to your child's device. And there's a similar thing on Android. So both of those are tools that are developed, or APIs that are developed by both Apple and Google that we utilize to do that. So with that, what we're able to do is, say, for instance, the child app that's on the child's device, OurPact Junior, we can make it so that that cannot be removed or deleted. And then as far as the, if they were to delete that, that doesn't remove the management profile that's on the child's device. That allows you to send these commands to your child's device. And then you're the only one that has access to remove that. And you can do that remotely from the parent's device. So at any point you can send a command and it will uninstall itself. But you're the only one that has access to do that.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny, when the iPhone, even the Find Location, that was the deal that all of my kids had, was, okay, you get a phone and you get a car or you can drive, but that never stops sharing. You just don't. You don't get the option to turn it off. And then, hey, maybe it was a good conversation and say, look, I want to know where you are if you need help. I'm not tracking you. I'm not trying to find what you're doing, but it's always good if something, I need to find you and you're in a car accident. I want to know where you are. So I think it's just, again, apps like this, it's a positive resource to begin having really good conversations with your kids, to explain it's not about, being that, annoying, following, want to know everything you do. But it's a pact, our pact together. And I really like the name of it. I think that's really the way it should be. And that's a conversation that you should be having with your kids. So I think it's a great one. So again, tell everyone how they can find it online and how they go about doing and starting up this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can go to ourpact.com, get more information, take a look at the features. If you go directly to your app store on your phone, Apple App Store or Google Play Store, and just search OurPact, and it will pull up. And just download the app, start taking a look at the features, and you can set up an account for free and set up your child's devices and start playing with the features and see if it's something that will work for you and your family.
Great. Well, Dustin, thank you again for joining us, VP over at OurPact. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and I know our viewers are really interested in it. And again, thank you. And I know you got to go, so we'll let you go, and we'll keep talking about OurPact and how to make memories. So thanks again for joining.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So, and again, it's a good segue into talking about what we wanted to provide a resource about. Your kids just come over, and so how do you make memories? How do you engage with them? When they're just, their face is buried in their phone. I mean, I get it. My kids are still that way. We talk about putting our phones in the center of a dining table so that, it's when we're having dinner, it's time to just having conversations. We talk about current events, uncomfortable things. And it's kind of an open forum. It's kind of fun. And the question was trying to find out ways to engage with my kids digitally. Any suggestions?
So I've got an answer to that one, because I've got these two kids that are elementary school aged, and they love their iPads, they love their phones, and they love their Xbox. And what I have done is I've decided that I'm going to love Xbox too. And I created my own Epic Games account. I've got Fortnite characters and skins, and I get in there and I play with them almost every day with the 9-year-old. He loves it. He gets on with his friends, and his friends are saying, hey, where's your mom? Can your mom play too? And so they all, we all do it as a group, as a family, as a friend group, and have a great time. And he loves that. I mean, a new update came out today, and he's been texting me all morning. When are you coming home so we can play this new update? So I think that's a way. Just know what they love when they're on these games and when they're on their phones, and just engage with them and join them.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You think about it during COVID, for us, like my kids, we found a way to play something that's called Jackboxtv. And it's you use your phone to answer questions, whether it's trivia or games. It is, and we had so much fun as a family. I've got 5 kids, so it's a big family, and of playing games, and they were around the country, so we could do it remotely. And it was great, but there are so many things out there that make memories. My kids will forever remember that period of COVID where we played more games together than we ever did because we had nothing to do. So we did them digitally. Like you said, whether it's Minecraft or whether it's Fortnite or whatever it may be, that's the whole point of, I think, with our pact is, okay, let's try to have good conversations about really good use of digital time to try to make a lasting memory, because the last thing you need is they're just spending the night at your house and it's just a place where you don't do anything with them. And I think they need to look forward to it, especially on Father's Day. I think my point when we were thinking about the topic for one of the weeks here and making memories was, yes, Father's Day is great, but let's make your kids find it a memory that is something that just coincides with that day. Whether you're, hey, we're going to play online together. Hey, we're going to play this together. Whatever it may be. So what do you guys think in terms of, whether it was your dad or, again, Kim, with your kids, things that you can make special, as you suggested, online time to Ashton, whatever it may be. If you think back, were there moments where you just remember that special memory that just happens to be associated with a holiday itself?
Right. So, with everything that we have at our fingertips, I believe when I'm looking back at, decades of spending time with family, it is thinking, okay, I didn't have a phone throughout, a large chunk of that time. And now that I'm spending time, whether I'm going to ball games with my dad or anything out there, is I know that I may not be fully present because we have all of this at our fingertips. And Scott, you mentioned that earlier about a block texting feature on this OurPact. And I think that's very important, is that, we're not trying to just limit what they have access to, but it's also making sure that they're present in the things that we are doing, whether it's just throwing a ball outside, whether it's making dinner, eating dinner. It's really those features that allows us to be present and enjoy these memories, whether it's 6 hours on Father's Day or the Father's Day weekend or spring break. It's important to remember those times and fully be engrossed in those just simple conversations with our children.
I think those little everyday moments are things that you shouldn't forget about. Whether it's like just having a bedtime routine where you're reading a story to them at bedtime, or I do affirmations with my kids at night before they go to bed. We just have a little moment where we're talking and I'm giving them affirmations and they're repeating them. And it's something that they look forward to, but it's also something that I think that they will remember. So even if you don't have your kids every day, this is something that, they know when they go with dad, then they're going to do this great story time. They're going to have affirmations or whatever it is. But just the little things, it doesn't have to be a big event or a trip or a big activity. It can be just those little moments that you guys share together that are consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I think the danger as we talk about spending time with your kids and making it memorable is you also get off your phone. I mean, hey, we're all interconnected some way, and whether we're in social media or whatever, texting or snapping or whatever it may be, is lead by example, right? I mean, that's just my thought. Is I try to make sure. It's funny, this weekend, I'm looking around the table and everybody's on their phone, and I just put my phone down and I wait. I wait for them to look at me and realize that I'm off my phone, and I just want to interact. And that's the point, is doing that. It's an easy device, and it's great, but it's terrible because it does distract human contact and interaction and conversation. I think that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. But we think about memories. I was saying offline, trying to make an event, whether it's Father's Day or your time. And I think this is, again, the struggle with divorced dads, I think, is they focus on the time. Hey, they're with me. They're with me. They're with me. Well, that doesn't necessarily matter make that time a memorable event. So with my oldest, who happens to have a birthday on Christmas Eve, we didn't make it about the Christmas holiday. We picked a place that we did every year. And it was this restaurant, and we went to this mall, and then we went to a movie. And as he was growing up, and now he's an adult, in that point, he always remembered that that moment was necessarily not about, the Christmas holiday. It was, we were doing that restaurant every year. And that could be how you're making the memory, how you spend your Father's Day, whether it's every year we go to the ball game or every year we do this. That's to me what we were trying to get across through making memories and using OurPact to try to limit and understand where that's less important than doing something together. Maybe leaving your phones in the car and you're taking a hike. That's kind of the whole point, and that's my thought. Curious what you all think.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and creating that tradition where you guys do that, that's a really awesome idea. I also think that it's important to recognize exactly what your kids are interested in. One thing that I loved about my dad was that he was always at my sporting events. And I was terrible at sports, but he was right there. He was supporting me. It's not till now that he makes fun of me and my terrible attempts at every sport. But back then, I thought he was just my biggest supporter and my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so just being there, knowing what they want and engaging in whatever activities they want to engage in without being on your phone. I mean, my kids, they have called me out. I've been on the sidelines of a football game on my phone, and my son has been like, put your phone down. I'm like, sorry, I'm focused on you. And I think that's really important because they notice and they crave that attention from you.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
One of the things that I look back on growing up is the little things that each parent would prescribe during these events. So I think about Christmas and the winter holidays and thinking about snow and thinking about, okay, if an ice storm comes, if we don't have internet or electricity, my dad always brought out Monopoly. And that's just something that has kind of transpired and gone into other games. But even now, it is about once a month that our whole family gets together at my house and we play games and we all enjoy it. But it's also learning they're just personalities of each person and, competitiveness. And obviously games have come and gone throughout the years and there's new debit card monopolies or whatever there may be. But you start these traditions, and it's something that I always think back as the winter approaches and thinking about, playing these games by the fire or while it's dark inside. And so we learn those things when we're just kind of away from the electronics and, corresponding with one another and learning, just like you said, what we're interested in.
Yeah, there was a comment about here in the Q&A about not kind of being, my kid knew that I wasn't interested in that game, that online game that we were playing. So I try to find something new that we're both can be interested in, that it's our game. They may play Fortnite, they may play whatever it may be, they may do this, but for example, Jackboxtv, this is our game. And my kids know they don't play with anyone, but they play with me or my family. That's our family game. And that's kind of the memory I think you try to look for. And in the comment section, talking about how the gaming board game thing is huge right now. And that is, go to Target. I mean, I'm just picking Target out of the air. Don't care. Go to Walmart, go to wherever. Find a game together and make it your game. Make it that memorable game that you play every Father's Day or you play on your weekends or whatever it may be. And I think that's the point, is that you're showing interest in them, and now you've got something that you share together that they look forward to, not just something that they do all the time that you happen to participate in.
I also think it's great when there are siblings and there may be an age gap in those siblings, but it's something that we all come around the table or we all have, 30 minutes, an hour. It doesn't have to be an entire night, but it's something that everyone just comes together with. And it's no matter the age, no matter the gender, no matter anything, is we're coming here, we're spending that time together. And, those kids are going to remember it, whether it was just a very minute time through, our parenting time with the kids.
Yep. Well, that brings us to the end of our virtual town hall today, since we're right on the button at 12:30. And we look forward to having you again next Friday as we celebrate fathers every Friday during the month of June, trying to bring you resources, uplifting things. You fought so hard. You've done that. You've done your job. And now let's just give you the resources and the tools to try to spend that quality time. So We look forward to seeing you next Friday on Father's Friday. So check us out on social media. You can see all the topics coming up. You can check out our YouTube channel and also go to CordellCordell.com. So until next Friday, have a great weekend.